just to give you an idea of what the day in the life is, or the average day in the life is for the end user. What I'm going to do is just make a simple booking. I'm going to find an office for the remainder of the day. I'm going to hit book, define where I want to make that booking. I have a pretty large list because I'm here in the demo environment, and I'm going to explain that list later. Just going to say I want a workspace, and then finish my end time. I'll go until 5 p.m. When I hit done, I'm receiving a list of all available workspaces at this coastal office complex that I can make a reservation on. And we don't allow double bookings or conflicts, so no need to worry about that. I can scroll through the list, find what I need. Office 4 looks good to me. And actually from this screen, I can look at where this office is on a plan. That's one of the new capabilities we just put into the mobile app. So I can use that as a wayfinding component. And then I'm going to finish my reservation by naming it. Capitalize that. And submitting it. And that's it. So Office 4 is mine for the remainder of the day. You'll see another reservation in there that I made earlier. But what will happen from here is I will be prompted to check in once it's time, once it hits the start time of my reservation. So one of the cool things about the app is that it will send push notifications to my phone that I can simply select. It'll bring me to a screen that prompts me to check in, and I'll complete that check-in in that regard. The other option is simply hitting check-in where I am right now. One of the other cool features about the mobile app is that we can enable geofences around your office, and what that allows us to do is restrict users from logging in until they come within, let's say, 500 feet of the office, and that distance is configurable. So it keeps people from checking in at home or when they're actually not at the office itself. Still speaking to check-in, we do have completed a new integration recently that we call the Open Presence Listener. And what that allows us to do is to connect into your security badge system. So at the beginning of the day, when someone badges into the building, we'll count that as a check-in event just by when they badge through the door. So that's one other way of checking in. And checking in is not required. It's not a mandatory feature at all. We work with some organizations who don't have it enabled. However, we are getting one extra layer of data by requiring it because we're understanding the actual utilization of the spaces they're checking into. We know when they show up, we're tracking the no-shows, and there's one extra component to that in that when they don't show up to the space, we're going to release it for others to potentially use. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to our web interface to show a couple of other of our capabilities. So I'm in Chrome here, but you can access this web interface through any device with access to the internet. So I'm in Chrome, it'll work on IE, Firefox as well, but the interface is actually completely responsive. So if you're on an iPad, a tablet, or any other size device, maybe your phone, you'll still get the same rich user experience. So in the case of maybe I don't have the mobile app yet downloaded on my phone, I can still use the browser, and I'm not losing any sort of functionality there. One thing that you noticed as we stepped through the demonstration, and that started in the mobile app and continues here, is that the entire platform is extremely pictorial in nature. So all the images are going to be uploaded by the client, all the images of the spaces. Then the front banner here is configured by the client as well, along with this text. So you're creating a very unique, custom end user experience. And the interfaces also follow a similar architecture to Airbnb or any of those travel websites, and that just speaks to the ease of use. When you use those websites, you don't have to go through any sort of end user training or read a manual. Same idea here. Anyone could log into the platform today and find resources and reserve them as needed. What I'm going to do next is show you a couple of the other functionalities we have here and how someone could use the platform. So just explaining how you search for something. There are 4 fields that will go into a search. The first is the location. As I mentioned earlier, I'm in our demo environment. I'm an administrator. I have access to all the locations that we've added. This could be one location, or it could be your entire real estate portfolio. If you're in a very mobile work environment, you can have users reserving across many different states, many different locations. Or you could have them only access to one location within your portfolio, and we control that through user groups. And to expand on that example, you might have an HR department at one location who only has access to a few desks within that office. We can get very granular with the level of control and permissions over user groups. So just keep that in mind. The second field is going to be the type of asset. Now, up to this point, I've used resource and asset pretty interchangeably, but within the forum, we consider an asset to be any resource that your organization might offer to its end users to be reserved. So most of the time, it's just going to be collaboration spaces and workspaces. However, you can put equipment and services like catering or maybe water or AV services on here as well, or even host your parking. And I'm going to expand on that later in another example. The last two fields in a search are pretty basic, just the start and end time, but I do want to point out one capability, and that is making recurring or no end date reservations. No end date reservations are usually restricted to administrators to manage permanent seat assignment, but recurring I find extremely useful in that, let's just use the example that I know I'll be in the office for 3 days next week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Oops. I can go ahead and make that set up now, so I'm making one reservation instead of 3 separate ones. And then from that point, I have 3 separate search options. I can search by floor plan, calendar, or list. I'm going to go into the floor plan now, and I'll select the first floor. So I'm seeing on the floor plan image all available and unavailable workspaces, and it's workspaces in this case. So green is obviously available, and when I hover over any of these images, I'll see additional details like an image about the resource. And then when I hover over something that's unavailable, I'll actually see details about the existing reservation. So that could give me some cues as to if I want to sit next to a teammate or maybe avoid a particular individual. And then I can make a reservation straight from the floor plan. So very easy. The next search I'm going to show you is our calendar search. I'm going to switch over to collaboration spaces at a different location very quickly. So I'm seeing over the course of a day just the available and unavailable time slots. Again, on this screen, I can see the other reservations and book around them really easily. I can see there's a project meeting with Jay that goes from 9 to 2. And then again, I can make reservations straight from the calendar. And there's a couple other portions of this reservation form for collaboration space over workspace that I'm going to point out very quickly. The main one is the number of people expected to attend. That's a metric that we're going to track in our analytics platform, and I'm going to cover analytics at the end of the demonstration here for those waiting on that. And then some of the other portions of the reservation form are adding it to my calendar. And when I enable that, or I check that box, I'll have the option of sending it as an ICS file to my notification that's sent to my email address. So I can add this meeting to my calendar. I'll drag the object over, and then in addition, all invitees, so everyone I add to this meeting will receive that same ICS calendar file I mentioned. Lastly, I also have the option to search by list. And this follows a very similar feel to what you saw in the mobile app. I can easily search through all the images and find what I need. However, I did want to point out one feature I haven't showed yet, and that's the ability to filter any search. And I can actually do this on any of the previous searches. I just want to emphasize it here. So let's say for my meeting, I need some video conferencing capability. It'll automatically pare down the list with what rooms have that amenity. I'm bringing you now to an asset details page. This just shows full details on the asset. One thing I didn't cover on the previous page that you might have saw was our integration with Google Maps. So if I need to get familiar with an area I've never been before, I can take advantage of this feature, maybe get some directions, find a nice food spot. And lastly, as far as the end user experience goes, I wanted to highlight some of our policies. So we talked about check-in earlier. That is something that you can require, not require, but we have a number of other policies that help control how users interact with the resources in the system. One of the interesting ones I like, especially for conference rooms, are the ability to add setup and breakdown time to them. So if I have a setup time, that obviously adds time to the beginning of the reservation automatically, and the same goes with breakdown time at the end. And that's just some examples of our policies. Lastly, this image you see here is just one, but you can have up to 6 on any resource. So if you want to add pictures of specific amenities or instructions about that resource, they can obviously be added here. With that said, I'm going to take you guys into our integrated analytics platform. It's included standard out of the box with our offering. We're going to track every single reservation that's made in the platform so that you can get an understanding of how your facilities and assets are being used. There's actually 2 components to analytics. One is the user side and one is the managerial side. Every user has access to analytics so that they can get an understanding of how they are being stewards of space. You know, am I showing up to my reservations often? Are there a lot of no-shows? How do I compare to other users in the system? These are all things that the standard user will have access to. You may find more additional value, however, in the actual managerial dashboard. As soon as it pops up. There we go. So I'm seeing a custom dashboard that I've made for myself that I feel will give me a good understanding of how my facilities are being used. So this dashboard could be custom to just a few locations that I manage, or again, it could be encompassing all of the real estate that we've added onto the platform. So just some examples. If in the case of being in the mobile workforce, if you have people reserving spaces outside of their home location, and we consider the home location to be what you've been assigned when you're added to the platform, I have this activity trend widget which tracks home and visitor reservations. So obviously there's going to be more home reservations, but it looks like we peak on Wednesday as well for people reserving away from their assigned home location. Then the popular times by location just gives you an understanding of when people are coming into the office most frequently. You can see we kind of peak around 10 a.m. here. It just gives you some insight to when people are showing up and checking in. With that said, I'm going to go over into reports really quickly. So we've got a number of reports to help you understand how your facilities are being used. This reservation list will pull all of the reservations made over a defined period across any number of locations that you decide to add. So right now it's showing me 90 days from today, and then I only have one location on here. I could add multiple or just a few in particular. 2 reports that I really like and are a little bit newer, that's why you're seeing this beta symbol, are the people presence by day and month. And this is showing actual utilization. So this is going back to who is checking in, who isn't. So this is giving you an understanding of which of your employees are good stewards or are good mobile employees, who is checking in and coming into the office most frequently. I could filter this down to show people who are at the office less than 50% of the time, maybe identify some problem users, really whatever you're looking for. This is the one by day, and then give you an understanding of the report by month. So this is showing me on a month-to-month basis the actual utilization of my employees. So I just wanted to show you guys that to give you a high-level overview of our analytics. Any of these widgets, dashboards, and reports are exportable and can be shared in a variety of formats. So just keep that in mind. I'm going to go back into the PowerPoint here and hand it over to Don in just a moment. I just wanted to impart that we are always working toward improving our analytics, and we actually have a very significant improvement coming in the very near term to get more reports around utilization. So these next few slides that you're seeing are all around utilization. This one in particular is showing me how close to max utilization I'm getting, with the red line being the capacity, and it's showing the utilized assets, which are the ones that are actually being checked into versus what is being reserved. Same idea with these next few ones. This is just at a monthly look, and this is showing a range of the actual utilization over time.